Hi, and welcome to this mini lecture. I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about the cognitive behavioral model, a framework for understanding and explaining mental health problems. And we're going to focus on using this framework for understanding and explaining anxiety and related disorders. And again, this is the model we're going to use to guide our conceptualization of what mental health problems are and where they come from, and how to treat individuals who experience these problems as we move throughout our course this semester. The cognitive behavioral model includes two separate frameworks that we use to understand mental health problems: the behavioral framework and the cognitive framework. Let's first again review the behavioral framework. This time talking about OCD. This graphic here describes a common sequence of events for people who experience obsessive compulsive disorder. An unwanted intrusive thought or an obsession will occur, such as, what if I left the door unlocked? Note that it is common to have these types of unwanted intrusive thoughts. Research suggests that upwards of about 90 to 100% of people experience similar intrusive unwanted thoughts, and sometimes with high levels of frequency. Oftentimes for people with OCD, these thoughts occur with intense emotional distress, such as anxiety, feelings of panic, feelings of dread, and other sorts of difficult emotional experiences. Oftentimes in response to both the obsessions and the co-occurring emotional distress, people engage in ritualistic compulsive behavior, such as repeatedly checking locks on the door, in the case of this specific obsessional thought. As we talked about in class, this often results in an immediate sense of relief and an immediate reduction in emotional distress when the ritual is engaged in. Anxiety momentarily subsides, and this sense of relief serves to reinforce the practice of the ritualistic behavior, increasing its frequency going forward and strengthening that ritual over time. So this normal learning process, this normal operant conditioning process, underpins and maintains anxiety and related disorders. So we can explain why rituals happen using this model. This is an explanation for behavior, using a normal learning process to explain why this maladaptive behavior occurs. And I now want to turn our attention to cognitive processes that are also involved in the development and maintenance of anxiety and related disorders. And I want to talk about two main cognitive processes, talk about how those processes fit together, and talk about how these cognitive processes work in concert with behavioral processes to give rise to and perpetuate mental health problems. And the first cognitive process I want to talk about are core beliefs. Core beliefs are enduring beliefs that we have about ourselves and the world around us. And we all develop core beliefs through our life experiences. We have certain ways of thinking about ourselves and the world in which we live. And these enduring beliefs we have influence and color how we see and interact with our world. Let's imagine that through life experiences, someone develops certain beliefs about themselves and the world in which they live, and specifically develops the belief other people are inherently critical, and the belief that I am unlikable. Think of these beliefs as sunglasses that color how people see the world around them, influence how people interpret the behavior of others, influence how people interpret events that they experience and situations that they're in. Let's think of a specific situation, a class discussion. So imagine that this person is a college student sitting in class, and a discussion begins during a class session. A core part of the cognitive framework or cognitive model posits that the core beliefs that this person has developed over the course of their lifespan, indeed all of our core beliefs for everyone, influences how we'll experience situations such as a class discussion. And that people with different core beliefs will have very different reactions in response to this situation. This person here that we're using in an example might have certain thoughts in response to this situation that are a function of their core beliefs. So because they're wearing these sunglasses of these core beliefs, that's going to influence how they interpret and view this situation. And specifically, this person, and this is cognitive process number 2 here, might make certain judgments or have certain automatic thoughts in response to this situation. They might view this situation as inherently threatening. And they might have other automatic thoughts, such as everyone in class will think I'm stupid. So because this person has developed enduring beliefs about themselves and their world, they might respond to this otherwise innocuous situation, a class discussion, as a threatening event, as they make predictions about how other people might view and think about them. In turn, these automatic thoughts and judgments might lead to certain emotional experiences. In this case, this individual might feel intense anxiety. They might feel experiences related to panic. Maybe their heart rate would increase. They'd start to sweat. Maybe they'd feel flushed. In turn, this individual might engage in avoidance behavior. They might decide not to speak up during this class discussion. They might avoid making eye contact. And when they avoid talking, they might find that their feelings of anxiety, their feelings of panic reduce. And they have this immediate short-term reduction as these negative emotional experiences subside. Those consequences of that behavior in turn influence the likelihood of that behavior going forward. So for this person, because their avoidance behavior helped them feel better and had this immediate short-term consequence of distress reduction, we might expect that that avoidance behavior will increase in frequency going forward, and that response will be strengthened. We refer to that process as negative reinforcement. Avoidance behavior brings about the consequence of distress reduction, strengthening that avoidance response going forward and perpetuating this cycle. Moreover, if this person never speaks up during class discussions, they may continue to think of themselves as unlikable and continue to think of other people as inherently critical because they're not able to gather evidence that might disconfirm that belief. And really, it is this cycle, these cognitive and behavioral processes working in concert and interacting with one another, that leads to the development and maintenance of a pattern of behavior that, in this case, we call social anxiety disorder. So to summarize, the cognitive behavioral model posits that behavioral processes, such as operant conditioning processes, and cognitive processes, such as the development of core beliefs, and the way those beliefs influence how people interpret and respond to situations, combine to lead to patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving that develop into mental health problems.